This is episode 13 of the Triple Cross Cinema Podcast. I'm Whooper, and here's Mario.
Hi, everyone.
We're back to talk about the new Hollywood movement, which started in the mid to late 60s, I guess.
Yep.
I'm making that assumption because all three of the films that we're going to discuss here in just a moment, they premiered in 1967. Those films are Bonnie and Clyde, The Graduate, and In Cold Blood. And apart from those three films being part of the new Hollywood movement, I know next to nothing about said movement. I just know like more violence, more sex, more crime. I would assume based on these three films that those were like the tenets of whatever this wave was. Because
All
Bonnie
right.
and Clyde and In Cold Blood, both crime films, and The Graduate. Well, The Graduate, I don't know. It doesn't really fit with the other two, but
It,
it's more
it
sexuality.
yeah, it taking on the taboo subject at the time, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, all three of these films are about taboo subjects and revolve around them and everything. But so did like noir films.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know precisely what the deal is with the
All
new
right.
Hollywood label.
Yeah, so I can give you a bit of that. The all Hollywood is a more like conventional, and they have like a lot of conventional in storytelling, and they didn't really like show much violence, sex, and all that. So basically, they're like a new wave of talents in back in the late 60s and 70s. That like doing more like re- religion into this. So like yeah, a lot of more violence, and you see like some of the example is like The Godfather, Chinatown, and these are all in the 70s where like the new Hollywood movement really bloom booms, and here we see like all the beginning of that. So like all the three films from 1967, and I would include In the Heat of the Night as well for also a film back in 1967 that won the Oscar on at that year. Uh, to like the start of the movement, but we have like three film here which is I would say really stark and dark for the time.
I don't know if I would call The Graduate a stark film. I think it's pretty indulgent.
Indulgent,
Yeah.
right? Hmm. We can start with the Graduate if you like.
Should we? It's up
Yeah,
to you. I don't know.
yeah.
All right. It
Let's go
doesn't
with
really
that.
match the other two, so I guess it can go either at the front or the end.
Yep. It's still I would say like the Graduate is Bonnie and Clyde as well. I really popular. So like even today, and I remember like the first time I watching the Graduate, I feel it's a bit dated, but I really enjoyed the beginning and the end of it, and now that like when I watch a countless time, I still have that same feeling. But I just love all these like inconsistent and the dated as I said.
Yeah, people really love to use the word dated when describing old films. I mean, every
Yep,
film is dated because they all release on a particular date, right?
yep.
That
Technically, yes.
I don't. You watch an older film and it's not of a particular era. People like have an obsession, like they have a compulsion to use a particular word to describe that feeling. But
Hmm.
every everything exists and you know
I
begins to exist at a certain point in time. I don't
yeah
like all
I
three of these films. I didn't they felt old, but that's fine.
yeah
I don't,
maybe
I
the
didn't I didn't really think of them as dated.
yeah I think like the word dated is more like the product of its time maybe,
Yeah,
but
well, of course, they're like the people who were making them weren't doing so in the fourth dimension. They
yeah Well,
they were using the tools at their disposal during the time in which the film was made. Like,
yeah, but to say that, I actually feel that the graduate is especially the story and the way it's shot is it pretty much like really modern in the sense.
yeah, I think I agree.
They feature like pop songs. They have like like all the shots are actually pretty clear and clean. The one that I feeling a bit like a bit iffy about is the one where where Benjamin go to the university to Berkeley to meet Elaine, and these shots are just a bit like they have like they have a tendency to zoom in.
Yeah.
I just don't like that.
Well, the film zooms in and out, like very uh, uniformly or linearly. I guess I want to say, like when it zooms in or out, it doesn't really do anything to disguise the fact that the subject is getting bigger or smaller relative to the frame.
Mm.
The movement of the camera in or out, or rather the way that the lens is changing its focus, or it's I don't know how cameras work, but they're it doesn't like begin pushing in gradually and then speed up or slow down as it gets closer to its subject.
Mm.
It's just very kind of mechanical, but at the same time, it's very precise.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's meticulous.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking in
Yep.
particular of the scene where, well, I mean, are you talking in the Zoom when you're talking about the Zoom when he goes to what is it, Berkeley? Is
Yep.
that the college
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
where he goes to meet up with Elaine? Are you talking about the scene where the camera tracks him as he's like it's very close in on him as he walks through the campus, and then he eventually sits down, like in front of the fountain, and then it zooms
Yep.
way out.
Yep.
Yeah.
This shot, yeah.
And then it
Yeah.
cuts to the same shot, but it's obvious that the camera's been moved because the position of the frame like kind of moves a little bit, and then
Yep.
there's a bunch of students there. It would have been if they had like cross dissolved between the two with the camera in the same position, it might have been a little bit smoother. But
Yep.
I I,
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of like the fact that it is very like they're precise within reason, and
Mm.
it gives the film a very purposeful feeling, I think.
Mm. Yeah, to those of you who haven't watched or haven't know about the graduate, it is story of a graduate, a guy who just graduated.
Well,
His
he
name,
graduated, but he has an undergrad degree. He doesn't want to go to graduate school.
yeah, he doesn't know what to do. He's 20 years old. His name is Benjamin. He doesn't know what to do with his life, and he shut off not content what he's having at the moment, and he been chased by he's been asked by Mrs. Robinson, who wants to have an affair with him, and her she's his uh, parents partners in
No,
term of
her husband is Benjamin's father's partner.
right yeah, and so yeah, there's a whole lot going on, and for the first, I would say 10-15 minutes, we see how she luring him, how he's yeah, how like
How's she seducing him?
yeah, that's right, and and then to like to hit temptation to his nervousness of like getting the hotel, checking in the hotel and all that,
Yeah,
and
that scene where he calls her from the phone booth,
yep
and the I guess one of the waiters or servers brings the phone to her table, and she picks it up,
yep
and he's like trying to be stealthy and surreptitious about it,
yep
and she's like, I think would you like to go upstairs? He says yes. I think there's something you need to tell me. Oh, what
Yeah,
would that be? The room number.
yeah,
He's just completely like he's a dork, you know.
yeah.
He's clumsy. He
It's
has no social graces.
yeah. I think it's just out of his depth. It's the first time he doing all these things, and
Well, it's the
and
first time that he's probably doing anything like that his parents haven't approved of or like set up for him.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
he went to school obviously because they wanted him to. He didn't find any pleasure in it, or he didn't think of it as being any fun or
yeah,
pleasing to him really in any way. Because at the one of the first scenes is the party that his parents are throwing for him, like in his honor because he's graduated, and his mother, I think, is the one who reads off a long, maybe it's his father, but a long list of his accomplishments is
yeah,
read
yeah,
off.
yeah, yeah.
Um, you know, and all the party goers are there's nobody
Uh,
his age; it's all his parents' friends,
yeah.
and
I love the
it's
shot.
a whole bunch of stuff that he's done, and you have to imagine they encouraged him to do all of it because no one would go out for that many activities and
Yeah,
scholarships and medals and certificates and everything
yeah.
on their own. So
And
he doesn't have any experience doing anything that isn't
on
pre-approved.
his own.
Yeah,
That's right.
that's why he's such a fumbler.
Yeah. I love that shot. You know, like the first shot of him meeting on all of his parents' friends,
Yeah,
and we follow his face a bit too close,
right.
and yeah, and wherever he tried to run off to from a group of his parent friend, we will see like he getting cut off another group,
Right.
just another person who want to talk to him. So he's a good boy, for sure, but not merely because of him, but more because of his father's status.
Right. Well, and his accomplishments as well.
Right. Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
those don't mean anything to him. So he's worried. He's worried about his future.
Hmm. Hmm.
Well, I guess I'm just a little bit worried about my future.
But he doesn't really have any plan to do. I like the idea. I really love the idea, and I would say there is some similarity between the graduate and Flower of Evils, and I think that's why I kind of enjoy this kind of story.
What, just because it's about a guy and his relationships with women?
Yeah, get him pulled into like that rabbit hole by a woman.
Right.
Women's.
Yeah, it definitely is a film that kind of examines, I don't know, man's relationship with women in a very strange, kind of absurd way.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's true that he's like aimless and directionless, and so the film is like going to be appealing to like navel gazers and like bedroom kids and stuff. You know, people who feel kind of like lost or directionless, kind of like drifters. Um, and I mean, I like those sorts of stories because I've been the same way in the past, and sometimes I still feel that way.
Yeah.
But
I would say
if
like
you I don't know how
majority.
well like that aspect of the
Yeah.
film synergizes with all of the. I mean, I wouldn't even say romantic. I guess like sexual or sex-oriented
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
the differences in the relationships between men and women, and what sex does to complicate those relationships, and it kind of the when I was saying that the film feels indulgent, it kind of feels as though the character of Ben was created and he's aimless and directionless. And what is someone like that going to do? Like, how will they occupy themselves? Oh, well, let's just, let's throw some girls in there and see what happens.
Mm.
Um, it feels a little bit loose.
Right. That's interesting. Because I think first and foremost, when I think about the graduate, it's about the boy who being seduced by by a married woman, and I think they start out from that angle, and it it come to later on where this particular boy seeing another girl about his age, and he fall in love with that girl.
Well, yeah, that's the plot of the movie.
Yep. But I by that I mean it. I for me I feel it's specific the way that like Benjamin is destined to be seduced by Mrs. Robinson. If you understand what I mean.
I don't know if I do.
Yeah. Right. But yeah, that it's just what I feel, and yeah, yeah. I like structure wise, I really like the first. I would say the first half, where we see all these Benjamin discontent of his current life. He getting seduced by Mrs. Robinson. They having a first date where he's nervously do all the things. I think the pacing is just right. I just I think the movie just enjoy the fact that it getting the laugh out of Benjamin. Like um, inexperience, like the way that he trying to yeah, the way that Mrs. Robinson tried to seduce him, like bit by bit we see like all these lit ups, and the way that Benjamin tried to get in the hotel room. So I really enjoy this. I think it's like perfectly in details. The bit that I didn't like is afterwards, where where he meets Elaine. I still enjoy that, but right after Elaine going to college, and he's decided to chase her down. That's the bit where I feel it's a bit like a bit clumsy.
Uh, I know what you mean, but I think that's where the film kind of gets into its absurd territory. Like
Right.
it kind of spirals, just like Ben's life is now that he doesn't have college anymore to like direct him, uh, and he doesn't have a path laid out for him, a template to lay his life on top of and make sure he stays within the lines.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he starts to like go nuts. He starts to
Mm-hmm.
lose his grip, basically.
Yep. Yep.
I think
Yep.
that that's it makes sense that the film was headed in that direction. I mean, how would it have resolved otherwise?
Yep.
Let's say he meets Elaine, falls in love with her, um, and he's like, "Let's get married," and she says, "Okay," and then they get married, and that's the end.
Yeah. Well, we actually have the ending that kind of like that as well. This
Not at
ending.
all. Not at all.
All right.
No,
Tell me more.
the whole point of that last scene where they've escaped, and they get on the bus together and their smiles like slowly fade from their faces. They realize that what they've done is completely stupid
Mm-hmm.
and like insane and makes no sense.
I actually agree with that, and because there is no plan at all after this.
Yeah.
And I would even imagine that like an hour from that scene they got caught again, and and like not like and they try to separate Elaine and Benjamin again, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, I mean it's entirely possible. I think that it would make more sense for them to actually try to be together, and over a period of time,
And doesn't
they
work out.
realize that it doesn't work out because that would line up more with the film's theme of like
Yeah.
um, disappointments and like unmet expectations and just
Yeah.
futility in general. I think futility is one of the big themes of the movie. Like all of his accomplishments in college were for nothing because he doesn't care about any of them.
Mm.
His affair with Mrs. Robinson was for nothing
Yeah.
because he eventually falls in love with her daughter. So why did he spend any
Yeah.
of that time um, meeting up with her and having sex with her and trying to form some sort of relationship with her, like we see when he asks her all those questions about how her relationship with Mr. Robinson got started.
Yep.
So everything that you know, all- everything that he attempted to cultivate between himself and Mrs. Robinson was for nothing. It was futile. His attempt at repelling Elaine during their first date when he takes her to the I don't know what you would even call.
Strip club, I think.
I don't know if you would call it a strip club because it's a restaurant as well. Right? I guess most strip clubs are restaurants, huh? I was thinking it was like a burlesque show, but I don't know what you would call a place that
Yeah.
holds those
Well,
sorts of shows. Anyway, yeah, let's just say strip club. Let's be modern about it.
adult club.
Um, that was, his attempts to like disgust Elaine
Yep.
because Mrs. Robinson says you can't ever take her out. So when he's kind of forced to, he tries to, you know, make her disgusted with him, and that's also futile. That's for nothing because he ends up falling in love with her immediately.
Yeah. And that's the thing because they only have what they have is just only that date. Like the right the next date, Elaine found out about the whole thing and they be shut off. So sorry. So it's been their the relationship themselves it's really not that substantial to begin with.
Yeah, it definitely isn't.
Yeah. Maybe that's the point, right?
I don't know. Like I think at that point, the the film just wanted to complicate itself,
Yeah. Yeah.
and make Benjamin like put him under more and more pressure and make him crack. And so at that point, like Elaine was not the priority because the Benjamin's psychology is definitely the film's number one concern. Like when it constructs that really intricate sequence with the two Simon and Garfunkel songs back to back, where he's in the pool at his parents' house, and then he walks into the house, but he's actually walking into the hotel room where he and Mrs. Robinson
Yeah.
are having the affair.
There's a lot of match cuts
Yes, there are, with
there.
like black behind his head, like for the
Yep.
headboard, and the pillows
Yep.
in his room, and the couch in his parents' living room and everything. The like that's all about that whole scene is all about like first of all it indicates the passage of time, but it also indicates that in his mind everything is kind of like clumped together, and
Yeah.
the days are passing by without a lot of differentiation between them. Like he's kind
Yep.
of living his life in a haze.
Yep. Yep.
So it's like
Drifting away
scenes like
as well.
that, yeah, drifting along. He doesn't literally in the case of the shots where he's in the pool.
Yep.
Um, it's it's all about him. It's all about his mind state, his mentality, how he feels. It's not so much about Elaine. She's just like an object, pretty much.
That's true.
The film's more interested in Mrs. Robinson than it is in Elaine, I think. Like for example, the slow zoom in on her lying on the couch watching the Newlywed Game on TV.
Yep.
Right before Benjamin comes over to pick up Elaine for their date, you can see like how disgusted she is at the idea that her lover is going to be taking out her daughter on a date.
Yeah.
But there's also everything that we come to know about her from the conversation that she and Benjamin have in the hotel room. Like her life was kind of irreversibly altered when she got pregnant.
Yeah.
And even though she was studying art, she now knows nothing about it and doesn't care to talk about it.
Yeah.
Even though that was probably her passion when she was younger.
Yeah.
So I have to
That's-
imagine that it's not just that she doesn't want Benjamin to go out with her daughter because of how complicated that is, like sexually, but also because she doesn't want her daughter to like follow the same path that she did. She doesn't want her daughter to get pregnant and have to put her whole life on hold, and for Benjamin to become the new Mr. Robinson, but the next generation version.
Yeah, but they couldn't have been right because Benjamin and Elaine are disapproved by Mr. and Mrs. Robinson. So it's kind of not feeling the same as the as their generation.
What do you mean? What do you mean they couldn't have been? Elaine couldn't have gotten pregnant, and
Yeah, that just yeah. Well, that's just what I think at the moment. Yeah, well, she could actually. She could.
that's what I mean. Like that's what the mom
Yep.
doesn't want.
Mhm.
She doesn't want Elaine to have to, you know,
Go through all.
yeah, to do what she did and to like have her life like go onto a different track
Mm.
because of her relationship with a man.
Yep. Yep.
Then there's also that scene we were talking about, like the the zooms, like how obvious the film's zoom shots are. There's also
Mm-hmm.
the scene where Mrs. Robinson is like in the corner of the hallway
Yep.
after Elaine
By
has
Benjamin, right?
realized that
Yep.
Dustin Hoffman's character, why am I blanking on his name? Benjamin
Yep.
has been having an affair with her mother. Like when that shot when Mrs. Robinson is in the corner of the hallway and the camera like zooms out and
Yep.
she looks so small and
Yep.
like uh like helpless, and
Yep.
in that scene it's just there, I feel like the film, there's a lot more care put into the depiction of Mrs. Robinson than there is to um, anything to do with Elaine.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And I actually, when you say that, I agree of that. But I also do feel that Catherine Rose, the actress of Elaine, like did the best as she could with the characters.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah.
don't think there was anything wrong with the performance. I just think that like The Graduate is Benjamin's movie,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yep. Yep.
because he's the man and it's about his relationships with women.
Yep. And yeah, there's a lot of a lot of theme from the graduate that I found resonate to. Like I think we talked briefly into this in our discussion before that it's about like the the aimless about someone who like who doesn't know what to do with his life. That's something that I think like everyone, like every adult have like have a period like this where they uncertain about life, where they like and also about like, temptation, about like getting pulled into something that like making the whole mess out of themselves.
Yeah, and
I
everybody else.
Yeah, found that really like it's still ring true to me, like or uh every time I watch it. And it's about the generation gap as well, about like how Benjamin doesn't really connect to any of their of his parents ideas, friends and values. And I think that's intentional in a way that we know Benjamin and Elaine by their first name, but all the parents they we know by their last name, for example.
That's true. I mean, though, I don't know. I don't know what else he would call Mrs. Robinson. I guess he could call her by her first name.
Yeah.
Um, but it doesn't seem like she would be that open to that idea.
No, no.
She doesn't really
And
want to talk, you know?
about her life, I think would make sense because I would say that she really the things that that there's nothing to talk about.
Yeah. Well, that's not what she's there for.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Though he wants to talk. I mean, I did find that scene, the scene where they're in bed
Mm-hmm.
together in the hotel room and Benjamin is asking her all these questions. He's like hounding her, even though it's obvious because she keeps turning off the light, and then
Yep.
he'll ask her a question and she'll have to turn it back on.
Yep.
I found that scene very endearing, just because it was the first time that we were seeing like Benjamin who was actually putting any effort into anything. I think
Mm-hmm.
every scene before that he was just like, well, I don't, I just, oh gosh, I just don't know what to do. Oh geez,
Yep.
what am I supposed to do now? Oh, I'll just
Yep.
go get my toothbrush from the car. You don't have to bring in my luggage.
Yep. Yep.
But then he, in that scene, he's actually trying to have a conversation with her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's just fun. It's just amusing. What my favorite line reading in the whole film is when he asks, Mrs. Robinson reveals that she and her husband,
Have sex in the car.
yeah, have sex in the car, and he says, "What kind of car was it?"
Yeah.
And she turns and looks up at him and goes, "What?" I just love because you can hear the Brooklyn accent
Yeah.
in her voice. It's like part of the actor leaking into the character.
Yeah.
Um, she just is so like matter of fact and blunt about what, like that was the stupidest possible question that anyone could ask in the whole world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that was a great moment.
Yeah. It was. And I think my favorite moment is before that when they in the hotel room for the first time, and Mrs. Robinson take off her clothes, and Benjamin tried to touch her, and then he pulls away and like knock his head in the wall
Yeah.
because he said like like we shouldn't do this, Mr. Robinson. We are just wrong. The way that my parent bring me up, it doesn't isn't meant for me to like go into the bed with the partner wife or
Yeah.
all that. It's just so funny, and I think I'm reading somewhere, but that was improv by Dustin Hoffman.
What, him
The
like knocking his head against the wall?
Before that when he tried to touch Visit Robinson, I think it off the script,
Oh.
and actually he had to turn his back to us and knock in his head because at the time he was laughing.
Oh, I see.
Crazy though.
Yeah, I
Really
mean,
though.
it makes sense that he would be laughing. This is definitely a comedy. Because it's just all so ridiculous. Almost everything that happens in the film is completely ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it is also meant to evoke, like the real, I don't know, I guess anxieties and questions that people have around this point in their life when they're not sure what to do with themselves.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it does address those feelings, and it uses them to create the groundwork for Benjamin's character. But from that point on, it's just yeah, it's a farce. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you like the ending?
Like the scene at the church when he's
Yep. From
like
that scene.
up in the balcony and he's like, Elaine,
Yep. Yep.
Elaine. I mean, I thought it was great. I was laughing like crazy.
Yep.
And especially the part where he comes down the stairs and he like flips over the banister to get past her dad and ends
Uh-huh.
up backing him up against the wall to knock him down. He grabs the
Yep.
cross and uses it to fend off all
Yep.
the people who were attending the wedding, and
Yep.
it's just nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. It is.
I think it's great. It's a good culmination of all the scenes of him driving his car around California. I guess is no. Does she get married in Nevada?
She get married in Santa Barbara.
Yeah, Santa
I don't
Barbara.
know where
Okay.
that is.
All I know is
Is
that
it
it's in
far?
California. But yeah,
Right.
he's driving his car around and he's stopping at like gas stations and like a fraternity house and stuff to figure out where the wedding's being held. And in each scene, his car is like progressively more beaten up and dirty.
Yep.
So you got to figure like that's a reflection of the fact that he's getting more and more desperate. So it makes sense for everything to implode at the end.
Yep. 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 I think that scene, like you said, is funny and actually powerful at the same time. For some
It's
reason,
it's powerful.
like yeah, the moment that Elaine saying his name back,
Oh yeah.
I just feel like a great satisfaction for some reason about them, like messing up with their life. I don't know. Or just being true to them, to their feelings.
Yeah, I
It just
guess.
yeah, and that ending, I just feel that the graduate it had a really for me they said a really brilliant first act, a bit of a shaky second act where he meet Elaine, and like it wrapped up well in these final moments.
I enjoyed it.
That's
I
great.
like I like the film well enough.
Right.
It was good.
Yeah.
Got to listen
Oh.
to an acoustic. Well, I guess
Mhm.
um, Mrs. Robinson is an acoustic song to begin with, but I got to listen to an alternate version of it,
Right. 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 Right.
which played multiple times. Like they
Yeah.
kept they kept playing the song and then cutting it off, and then there would be like a little bit of a scene um, with one of the other characters, I guess, and then it would cut back to Benjamin in his car, and the song would play again.
Mhm.
That was I think I appreciated that choice, like the fact that the song keeps getting cut off midway through and restarting,
Mhm.
because it kind of fits with the idea of a character whose life is going nowhere.
Mhm.
It's like you're listening to the same song over and over again. You're not making your way through the album or the soundtrack,
Yeah.
as it were.
Yeah.
I'm sure that people complain about the fact that it only uses like 3 or 4 Simon and Garfunkel songs and not too much other music to speak of.
Yeah.
But I think in that way it kind of suits the film.
Yeah, I feel the same, and the directors he was obsessed with their song, even like while filming this. So I think that's why he used like most of their song, and
Right.
uh, and the new original song, Missy Robinson, in there. So yeah, I actually feel that the soundtrack is like part of the reason why it's become so popular, and and what one for me one of the great thing in the films, like if we remember the graduate, we remember the song by them, or this
Right.
song as well.
Yeah, in fact, coming into this film, that was the only thing I knew about it was Simon and Garfunkel were on the soundtrack.
And I think this is the film that make them famous as well, that make them into mainstream audience.
Yeah, this was 1967, so I can
Mm.
believe that. Yeah, because I mean their career, obviously both of them had careers in entertainment that stretched for long periods of time, but as far as them being like a songwriting and performing duo, they only
Mm.
put out 4 or 5 albums, I think, and they spanned from the mid '60s to the very early '70s, and that was it.
Mm. Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, that
so
must
that
be it.
would
Yeah.
fall right within that time period.
Yeah. And the director Mike Nichols, he was famous in I think in radio before this. So I think he hosting some kind of really popular program along with Ellen May, uh, who later on also become a director herself. All I want to say that he been already famous as being like a comedian, or like put out like comedy shows before the graduate.
Hmm.
And
Interesting.
his first film, who who afraid of Virginia Woolf, just come out a year before the graduate, was full on dramedy, and then he making comedy again with the graduate. So I think his filmology is really interesting.
Hmm. Well, I'm sure I'll see another film of his at some point. For now, this is good.
Yeah, glad you enjoyed that. I pretty much enjoy like all the three films that we watched. So
I have a
catch up
definite
for me.
favorite.
Oh, you do.
Yeah.
Let's see if it's the next one then.
What's that
You
gonna
had
be?
Bonnie and Clyde. Before
Oh,
that though, you have any other note undergraduate or
no.
yep, that's
No,
so
we're good.
Let's just move on to Bonnie and Clyde.
I thought this film was very strange.
The what the title, the
No,
names.
this film
Oh, the films,
as a
right?
whole was very strange.
Yeah, tell me more about that then.
Well, the way that it starts is well, first of all, it starts with Bonnie naked in her room, and
Uh-huh.
she doesn't get dressed for quite a while. So that's how the film starts. That's the hook, I guess.
Yeah.
And then when there's eventually like, dialogue or conversation, it's happening between her and the man who she caught trying to steal her mother's car.
Uh-huh.
And
Y-
very shortly, he convinces her to run away with him.
Yeah.
Like I
Yep.
was just,
That's the plot.
yeah. I I mean, the before the film even starts, there's some text, I guess, on screen. I don't know what you would call what the term for that is exactly when the film puts up like informational text,
Yeah.
expository text. I don't know,
Yeah.
but we learn that she has a criminal history and so does he.
Mhm.
Before the two of them meet, like she already had a criminal history.
Yeah. I don't remember what did she do though.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
She
Maybe
like
shoplift or
robbed.
something.
She
Yeah.
stole from at her cashier job or waitress job.
Yeah. Well.
She
Oh. Oh.
stole some money and then she had to get a new job somewhere else or something like that.
Right. Right. Yep.
And of course he was in the joint.
Yeah. So I do think that at the start, Bonnie just more as well with her life. So we have like basically the same start for Benjamin and Bonnie, where they bought with their current life. I love uh the scene where she like where she so bored that she tried to hit I think the frame of her bed,
She tries to what?
to hit the frame of her bed.
To heat the frame of her bed.
Yeah. I remember the moment like that. So she's so bored that she tried to hit something.
Oh, are you saying hit?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And
I kind of remember that. And I get that she's like dissatisfied with her life because she's living at home and she has a job that she hates and she hates all the truckers who come through. It's
yeah,
exactly as Clyde describes it.
yeah,
She doesn't like the fact that all these truckers are making passes at her. Sometimes she
yeah,
goes out with them, but mostly she just thinks they're stupid and everything. So yeah, she doesn't like her life, and Clyde comes through and like sweeps her away with the promise of adventure, money, whatever. But I just didn't like it. Shouldn't
by that.
kind of yeah. I mean, he's trying to steal her mom's car. Why would she think that? Why would you
She
follow somebody like that? I don't get
she
it.
she mischief herself. Like she want a little action. I think the whole throughout the whole film, she's the one who really wants like she want action. Uh she doesn't want fame. She want to be together with Clyde for sure. But yeah, out of the two, I just feel she's the one who just want to make some fun by by robbing banks.
I guess, but I mean, maybe my issue is the fact that we're hardly acquainted with either character.
Yep.
I mean, you quickly get the sense that she is kind of restless and dissatisfied and everything, and that he's the sort of person who could potentially give her, or help her
The
achieve
truth.
like a more
Yeah.
exciting life. But
Mhm.
I mean, it's hardly any time at all that we've known these characters before the diner scene where he's like laying out her whole life in front of her and being like, oh, but if you come with me, then we're gonna have a grand old time, this, that, and the other. Um, I was just like from the beginning, I was like, I don't really feel like I know either of the characters well enough to follow along here
Yeah.
and really believe what's happening.
I think I understand. But does it improve later on?
I
How do you
guess. I
feel
mean,
about the
I was
romance?
never really bored,
Yeah.
watching.
Yep. How do you feel about the romance between the Bonnie and Clyde?
It's pretty interesting. Like the fact that
Yep.
his impotence
Yep.
is such a big part of it, and the way that it's resolved is one of the most intriguing elements of the film for me because he's only able to perform sexually after like she writes that poem.
Right. Yep.
And he says the what I've wanted to be my whole life, which was somebody like somebody who matters and who everybody knows. Once she gives that to him through the publication of the poem, then he's able to, um, you know,
release himself.
Yeah, to maintain a boner, I guess. Uh, it's it's interesting, like what that says about humanity's like their needs.
Approval from others,
Yeah, or just I don't like
self-esteem.
the the reason that people have children is to pass on part of themselves.
Mhm.
And that's like something we do as a group, like as a species, you know.
Mhm.
But Clyde specifically wanted him to pass himself, like to pass on some some version of himself that was like immortalized as an individual. It
Mhm.
wasn't what drove him wasn't like reproduction, um, having children. I guess it
Mhm.
was that he himself and his exploits would live on, would like kind of frozen in time, I guess, or that he would be known on a wider scale, and that his death wouldn't be the end of him really.
Mhm.
So that it just kind of fascinates me that he wanted to live on as an individual and not just pass on part of himself to his child. And that's what his impotence represents, is he's only able to get over it once he feels as though he matters.
Mhm.
Because this film's set during a period of American history, like the Great Depression,
Mhm.
and which started in 1929 and continued through the early 30s.
So
Um,
it's sorry, it's before the World War II, right?
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
between the world wars, so after World War One by like a decade, I guess,
Right,
ish,
right. Mm-hmm.
and a decade before World War Two,
Yeah.
or less like I don't know, 7 8 years, 6 7 8 years before the start of World War Two. Um, you when you're that poor, you're impoverished. You don't really have any money, um, and you don't have like a business or a good job or anything that gives your life meaning or constancy. Uh, it can be easy to feel like you don't matter and that you don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess Clyde's character is battling against that feeling for most of the film.
Yeah. Mm.
And at the
Yeah.
end, he overcomes it with Bonnie's help.
Yeah. Right.
I just that to me is more interesting. Like thinking about what was motivating Clyde, um, and
To
Bonnie,
join.
and I guess the other characters too. But it really is the film really belongs to the two of them.
Yeah.
Thinking about what was motivating them to live the life that they were living,
Yeah.
rather
Yeah.
than the bank robberies and things themselves. That part wasn't as interesting to me.
Yeah. 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 I agree, and I do feel that they just want to like to shut up to make some fun, and they actually they this I all right. What I want to say is there are many moments I enjoy in this film. One of them is like the car chase. After they robbing one of the bank, and we intercut that with like all the witnesses saying in I think to the news about their experience.
Right.
uh, I remember the police saying, that I saw that I saw death in the eyes.
Yep.
Oh, that's so funny. Like and
There I was, staring square in the face of death.
yeah, that. Yep. And yeah, so it cut back and forth between like a car chase, which is already exciting, and like a kind of like cheeky attitude towards like they make the whole robbing bank event into some kind of celebration, kind of like the way that it get into the news, and the way that every witnesses and they just say about like they a bit hyping up about about that as well. I love that.
Yeah, that's another example of a scene. We were just talking about it in The Graduate, but that's another example of a scene that has music playing, and it like smash cuts to
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
a scene taking place elsewhere where the music is cut off and then it resumes. when it jumps back.
We have
In
that
this
in
case,
poker
I
as
thought it
well.
was kind of weird.
Oh, right, yep. So
I
the
mean, I
whole
wasn't a
thing.
big fan of the music to begin with. It's just like country
Oh,
banjo music.
wow! I actually really enjoy the music there. So I guess we disagree on this,
Down,
and
down, 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 down. It's just
I just I just find it's fun and really like appropriate with like this guy running from the police cars.
yeah. I guess it matches, because they're I don't know, kind of dumb Southerners. Is that the idea behind that music being selected? I just don't know what to feel about it really. I mean,
Yeah.
I know how I feel about it. I just don't really care for it. But
Uh,
it's the sort of music that you would expect to hear, I
yeah,
guess,
yeah.
in that situation.
And yeah, I found the romance between Bonnie and Clyde. I really like one of the crypt romance that I see in a while. The way that they clearly influence each other's. Like every decision, everything they have to like they look up for one each other's. And I remember like the last moment where Clyde know that they've been set up. The first reaction is to get back to the car to Bonnie.
Man, I don't even remember what exactly the order of events was there, because
So
eventually he understands that they've been set up, but then the
yep,
film just starts cutting back and forth rapidly between like close-ups of both of their faces, and
yep,
also the bush
yep.
where the gunman is hiding.
Hmm.
And I was like, what the hell is this editing? This is who
I
thought this was
think
a good idea?
it's a great editing because it's it build up the suspense because we I think before that we don't know that there's like a group of people like aiming at them at that ambush them. So we kind of been taken by surprise as well.
I mean, I don't think so. That how could it have been surprising when C.W. Moss's dad outlines the plan for him in advance?
Yeah, well, we just know that there will be something when they get into the car. So, for me though, I would have thought that they've been caught by the police like when they get into the car, not afterwards.
Yeah, I guess. But I don't know. I wasn't expecting because well, I guess I knew that they were gonna die. Like I knew that Bonnie and Clyde died in real life,
Yep, yep,
like in a shootout. So I wasn't expecting the cops to
mhm,
arrest them there.
yep. But
As soon as C.W. Moss's dad, who we know wants them dead,
mhm, mhm.
like waves them down on the side of the road, you already are aware that that's where they're gonna die. Like from the very beginning of that moment where they pull over and he's like, "Oh, I got a flat
Yep,
tire." They're
yep,
just waiting for them to die at that point.
yep. We don't know how the like I didn't really expect like a whole like a whole dash of guns. No, just been firing at them.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I knew about the real life figures, so I was just waiting for it to happen.
Yeah.
Like
All right.
all the gunplay and anything that had to do with them as criminals, I guess,
Mhm.
um, wasn't as interesting to me as them as individuals.
Yeah. Well, I pretty much say that the detail of like their crime is not the film interest as well. It's more interest that in Bonnie and Clyde uh romance for once. And maybe it's like some interaction with their team member as well. So we have Buck, his Clyde brothers, and Clanch, a uh, Buck's wife,
Yep.
and C.W. Moss, the
Right.
guy that they just pick up on the street.
Yeah. See, that's another like the scenes where they were convincing people to where Clyde convinces Bonnie to be his partner in crime, and then the scene where they pull up to the service station and C.W. Moss is there, and Bonnie's like, "We rob banks."
Yeah.
I didn't. I just wasn't on board, man. I I'm not on this film's wavelength.
All
If
right.
somebody comes up, if I have a criminal history and somebody comes up to me and is like, "We rob banks,"
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, "Hey, great, that's good for you." Like, I don't know anything about these people. I don't know if I want to work with them, or
Yeah.
I'm not just gonna get in their car and drive off. I don't. I mean, the the film has a lot of, because of the time period in which it's set. It is constantly making the point that there's not a lot of wealth, um, like
Going on.
that's shared between people, and the
Mm-hmm.
banks are holding it all.
Yeah.
And so that's why Clyde wants to knock over banks, is to get the money, get that they can't get any other way, that you couldn't get by working, because you're not making a lot of money even if you have a job at this point.
Yeah.
So the movie's like, I don't know, it has some anti-institutional leanings, like the cop, the Texas Ranger who they take the picture with, and
Mm-hmm.
who later interrogates Blanche and just like leaves in the middle of her tearful confession
Yeah.
after he gets the C.W. Moss's name.
Yeah.
He's like, the police are kind of cold and uncaring. The media are pinning crimes on Bonnie and Clyde that they haven't even committed. Like, they're sensationalizing everything about
Mm-hmm.
their gang, and
Yeah.
so there's criticism there.
Yeah.
Um, but I wasn't really convinced by any of that either. It just a lot
Oh.
of parts of this film like kind of missed for me. Like, for example, Clyde, allowing the man at the bank to keep his dollar because he
Yeah.
hadn't yet deposited it at the bank.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, is that your money?" He says, "Yes." "Okay, well, you keep it then." Like, that's supposed to be some minor act of nobility.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, if Clyde had walked in 60 seconds later and the man had deposited the money at the bank, then when he robs the bank, he'd be robbing that man.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
makes no sense at all that he
It,
would, that he would let the man keep the money just because he hasn't passed it to the teller yet.
well,
There's no
well,
logic to it whatsoever.
I think there's logic to that when that man already commit himself to the bank, it's the bank monies, and he is allowed to take it. So,
I mean, you're laughing just
I
describing it. Imagine that you were that man in that bank, but Clyde comes in 60 seconds later after you've already given the money to the teller, and then they rob the bank, and
and they said
you
too
know
bad.
yeah, and you get a letter from your bank saying, "Oh yeah, sorry, we lost your money. A guy came in with a gun and took it." You feel good about that?
Well, well. All right. Let's talk about other things. Um, I All right. How about Bonnie and Blanche? They're squirrels.
I don't even know what to say about that. I mean, just Bonnie's like pride and arrogance, thinking that
Yeah.
she's better than other people.
Yeah.
And obviously Blanche is annoying. I mean, the film frames her that way, but Bonnie's just like, she doesn't want to think of herself as, like trash, I guess, like white trash.
Mhm.
Um, and that's what she thinks Blanche is.
Mhm.
I don't know what else to say about. I mean, Blanche is annoying, and Bonnie is insufferable about it.
Yeah. Well. All right. um.
She's a hard character to like.
Yeah.
I mean, she wants to make her mark in some way, which makes her similar to Clyde. Like, they're a good match for that reason.
Yeah.
Um, but Clyde is, I mean, Bonnie is like ambitious, I guess. She
Mhm.
doesn't want Clyde to just keep performing. She doesn't want to perform with Clyde the same old small jobs over and over.
Mhm.
So, I mean, if the film had played up her ambition a little bit more and downplayed her like interpersonal problems, the fact that she didn't get along well with others, that
Mhm.
might have made her. I don't know. I might have more to say about her character. but I really don't.
Yeah. Well, I feel like this movie is a bit glamorized of like of their robbing bank, things. But yeah, it and then it shows like the real maybe harsh reality of like maybe a bit shocking as well of them like getting ambushed by the police and like die a bit like senselessly at the end. But
Right.
yeah, but I do feel that the whole film is about like their adventure and their love story, Bonnie and Clyde, that is. And yeah, I really enjoy the movie in general. There's one more scene that I want to talk with you is the scene where they are chasing up when they steal the car of a a rich man, I think in Texas.
You're talking about Eugene and Velma?
Yep, Eugene.
Yeah, that was a
And
strange story.
everything is strange.
Yeah, but that was especially weird. Like they rob a guy, they steal a guy's car.
Uh,
I shouldn't say that they rob him because I don't think they do. But it's just a very it's very it's very strange. Like they go get some hamburgers and he orders his well done, but then C.W. Moss gets the well done hamburger.
yeah.
And it's just a very ironic situation to be in a car with a bunch of like bank robbers and murderers and to be
I
like, hey, that you got my hamburger, for that to
no
be like the thing that kind of gets in your craw.
I think the idea is that they scared them at first, but they start to open up and actually enjoy their time with the gang.
Yeah, they are scared of them at first, and I'm sure that fear plays into the entire dynamic of their car ride with them. Like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can't
that's
press
true.
the issue about the hamburger when someone could just turn around from the front of the car and put a gun in your face and be like, "Why don't you shut up about the hamburger? Who cares? I'm gonna blow your head off."
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I
but
don't.
at the same time, there's also the innocence of Buck telling them the "don't sell that cow" story
Yeah.
with the little bit of brandy that gets poured into the milk. He tells he tells it to
I
Eugene and Velma, and it's the second time you're hearing it.
I don't know if it's supposed to be like a bad taste joke, a bad taste joke. Like I don't know if it intentionally like unfunny the joke is.
Oh, the joke's
Uh,
supposed to be funny
all right.
because the
I'm not.
mother is a teetotaler, like she refuses to drink alcohol whatsoever.
Yep. Yep.
Um, so it's funny that she would end up getting hooked on she would end up becoming a drinker
Yep.
without suspecting it.
Yep. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And
All
I
right.
mean, Buck is the most lovable character in the movie.
Yeah. All
I think
right.
so. Yeah, the fact that you know, that he tells the cow story multiple times and loves it so much that he uses it on whoever they whoever they happen to pick up on the side of the road.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Um, and the fact that he tries to smooth things over, between like Blanche and the other members of the gang.
I think.
He's
Yeah. I
trying to do
think.
the right thing in
So
most situations.
yeah. I think actually think it's Clyde who tried to smooth it over. It's a bug.
Well, Clyde is the one who's called on to do that. Like he has to get Bonnie under control, I guess. But Buck is, you know, he sticks up for Blanche.
Yep. Yep. I all right. I enjoy the dynamic there though. When Buck and Clyde telling like the stories and like they really cheerfully because they haven't met for a while. We see the other cow where Plant and Bonnie are just kind of like great intention between them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's probably a purposeful choice in casting Blanche's actress,
Yep.
that she's not very attractive, at least conventionally speaking. They wanted to play up the difference between Bonnie and Blanche, like even
Yep.
just visually.
Yep.
I'm sure,
Uh,
because people make those sorts of judgments about each other all the time, and I'm sure that Bonnie took one look at Blanche and was like, "This is not really somebody who
yeah.
I'm
Well,
gonna get along with."
yeah. Just for your information, the actress who play her Blanche, she won the Oscar for this role,
Like best supporting actress.
best supporting actress.
She won the Academy Award for just like bitching about everything all the time.
Well, yes, apparently yes.
My God.
All five member other guys are nominated for acting, and she's the only one who won.
Well, I'm happy for her. That's great.
All right. Yep. Oh, there's something that I want to talk about, but it slipped my mind. All right. I think we can just move on.
Alrighty. Yeah, I didn't.
Yep.
I didn't.
So
I thought the film was fine, but I really would not watch it again.
Yep. So I would reckon that this is your least favorite films out of the three, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, because I really enjoyed The Graduate and also the third, of the three films that we're here to discuss.
All right, let's go to that third film then. Incomplete,
Yeah.
based on the true story and based on the true crime non-fiction book by Truman Capote.
Right. I don't know how you say his last name. I've heard it said Capote.
Capote.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's how you actually pronounce it.
I think it's Capote. Yeah. I think it's the Italian last name, right?
I guess, yeah. I mean, if you're gonna say it Capote or Capote, it would be in a Romance language. So
Yep.
sure, Italian makes sense.
Capote. Yeah, I think that's a pronunciation.
Yeah, this film, boy, by the time I got to the end of it, I was like shaking.
Right.
It was very intense.
Well, let's see. Out of the three films, actually, Incomplete, the film is the least famous out of the other two. Out of the three, I would say that The Graduate and Bonnie and Clyde are popular even today. Incomplete and not so much. And I think it's weird because it's based on Truman Capote's book, and he's really a famous author, American author.
Yeah.
I guess that the book is more popular than the movies then.
I mean, it could
And
be, but it just makes sense that the other two films would be more popular because they're
more hips. More
they're
hippies.
they're less depressing.
Right. I agree with that.
This film's
And
depressing. Like you get the bad guys, and then the film's like, okay, well, we're not done. We have to detail everything about like their time on death row, and you're gonna have to watch as they're both killed
yeah,
in cold blood by the state.
that's right.
I mean, this film's very anti-death penalty, at least from where
I
I'm sitting.
Yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, I would say like the main theme of this movie is senseless. Like all these killing are really for nothing, because they kill four people for 41 bucks
Right.
and a radio.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
And
And I think the film would argue that they're also killed for nothing.
that's right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Dick makes that point to I can't remember the guy's name, the journalist, I suppose.
Yeah. That
Who's
his
doing
name is the journalist.
Jensen. Okay, he's the reporter.
Oh,
In the cast list, his name is given as Jensen. Dick tells him like, "Oh, I'm for the death penalty. The death penalty is just revenge."
Mhm.
And I've done plenty of revenging in my time, so I'm for it. Just so long as I'm not the one who's getting killed.
Yep. Yep. All
You
right.
know, and
I
that kind of mentality, illustrates, I don't know, I guess the counterpoint to the film's logic is that, oh, it's if you are violent towards someone, then the state can be violent towards you. They can take your life, the same way that you take the lives of others. But when it's delivered by a character like Dick, you who is a dick himself, you realize it really it doesn't make that much sense.
Yep. Yep. All right. I think we can start from the beginning where like we see the events unfold before the true crime happens. So as Perry and Dick meet together,
At the bus
and
station in Kansas
and
City, yeah.
that's right, and we see that we see those in between, like the events of the members of uh the clutter members' life, like a day before they being killed. Uh, there's a lot of match cut there as well, and I
Yeah,
actually
there are.
I really enjoyed those match cut actually. Like I think it is really powerful, even more so than with the graduate or Bonnie and Clyde is the one we just talked about.
Yeah, I guess it was in fashion at the time.
I would say, yeah, this this new wave, Hollywood new wave, is like they bring match cut more into attention than the period before that. But well, we had a lot of match cut, and I really really enjoyed the fact that like it stopped there right where Perry and Dick, like they having a second thought about that, especially Perry, and then it stopped there,
Right.
and we see the event already happened. We see like, or we see the investigation basically, and how they and about their runaways.
Yeah, at first I wasn't sure what the reason for cutting away was. I wonder if it was meant to put any doubt in our minds about whether they were the two, whether they had actually gone through with it and
Yep,
killed
yep.
them. Maybe somebody else did it or something like that.
Mhm.
But of course, the film just omits it so that it can return to it later.
Yep. I actually would have preferred better if they have not written at all. Like they just kind of cut the important piece because it one too depressing to watch, and b like by the way that they omit the that main event, they allow something else like happening. I would have preferred that as well, but we do get the scene where like the actual event happened, and yeah,
I mean,
still depressing.
how could you make this film without eventually showing what had happened?
It like just the way the way other people describe that, I think should be good enough. You know.
But then no, I don't think so, man. Because the
Right.
whole point of Perry's character is that he's like really damaged from his childhood, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's not enough for the film to just imply that that's the case
Yeah. Yeah.
and tell
That's true.
us that he snapped
Yeah.
and killed the Clutter
Uh,
family. Like you have to see it happen. Once the film has
yeah.
generated enough, sympathy for the characters, then it can show you them committing murder, and you
Mhm.
still feel sympathetic for them because of their pasts. Well, I mean, I keep saying they and their, but it's mostly Perry that you feel for.
That's
Um,
right.
but
I
I think
Yep.
that's one of the points of the movie is that it can show you somebody doing this terrible, terrible thing, um, and yet you can still empathize with them.
Mhm. Yep.
Like imagine that this film is just it were just made exactly this way, but without the flashback to the murders.
Yep.
Then it feels like extremely cheap because it's making the case against the death penalty without having shown you the killing.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
oh man, this is just such a tragedy. These two guys. I mean, we didn't even see them do it, and yet they're still being put to death in this terrible way. No,
Mhm.
you get. I think you have to show the murder because then
Mhm.
the film's confrontation when it shows Perry's body swinging from the rope and then cuts to the title in cold blood.
Yep.
Like, you know,
Yep.
it's more it's a better um, challenge, I guess.
Yep.
I can't think
Yep.
of another word.
Yep. Yep. And yeah, I realized that we have like a two different treatment to to the two killers. So for Perry, we see him more, like with his flashback, and for Dick it's more like, like what he, like what he behave now, and other people think about him as well. So I really appreciate the different approach to different characters, and the way that they speak, they talk to each other as well. I really enjoy the dialogue. For example, I th- it's strange because at first when they talk, I feel that on this dialogue and the way they deliver is a bit too not too real, too funny in some sense. The way that they talk every word so clearly, I just feel it a bit unnatural. And then I just see that all these dialogue are really, they are really sharp. They tell you about the personality of these characters and the dynamic between them. Like I remember, like at first we see Nick and Perry say about say something about you and me, and that Perry changes that you and I.
Right. That's in the
So
bathroom
yeah,
at the bus
that's
station.
right. That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that in the very beginning, we see kind of we see the dynamic between them very clearly through these conversations.
I mean, it varies though.
Uh huh.
Sometimes Perry seems to have the power in their relationship, and sometimes Dick does.
Yep. 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 Yep.
And that, that has to do with Dick's understanding of Perry's, like, his past, and whether he believes that he killed somebody
Mm-hmm.
um, in Vegas, I guess, in the past.
Yep. Yep.
Though he hasn't really, and so whether Perry capitalizes on that assumption of Dick's or not kind of determines the progression of their relationship.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's I think the whole plan is Nick's idea, by the way,
Yeah, it
and
is.
Perry just got getting along. But then Perry, the ones who do all the killing.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's interesting from there, like when we see them, like go through their plan. I think this is on the plan that they will kill these family members.
I mean, that was part of Dick's plan.
Yeah, that's right.
He
Yep.
he recruited Perry specifically because he thought that he had killed somebody before,
Yep.
and that he had like a hair trigger temper.
That's right. So the second thing is it was right.
Hmm?
The second thing was right. The hair jiggling temper.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, he I guess he figured, and he figured correctly, that Perry, like, had it in him to kill somebody. And there were a couple
Yep.
times
Yep.
during the film where he thought that it might be him, because Perry threatens
Mm.
him at least once, like maybe when they're in Mexico,
Yep.
I guess. Um, so the like there's animosity, adversity, that's kind of built into their relationship,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yep.
as well as there are some scenes where they get along pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's watching that, the pendulum kind of swing back and forth, creates a believable relationship between the two.
Mm-hmm.
I think,
Mm-hmm.
it
Yep.
it kind of speaks to their past as criminals, but also to who they are as people.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's important because the film is getting set up. I mean, throughout the whole first, let's say, hour and 45 minutes ish, all of that is the film preparing to argue that they deserve to live in spite of what they've done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's why the character of Jensen is written into the story at all, because he was, according to Wikipedia, he wasn't in the original novel.
the reporter, right?
Yeah.
I think he represent Capote.
Oh, you think so?
I think so.
I don't know.
But
I mean, just from Googling, I don't know whether Capote made his stance on the death penalty particularly clear in the original novel.
that exactly it. I think the stand against the death penalty is more of like the director's stand for
Then
it.
wouldn't Jensen, the reporter, represent the director rather than
Mm,
Capote?
maybe. But I for once, I think the film is great and powerful as well. But I for once doesn't think that the reporter add that much into into the whole story. I think the film can leave him out.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it could, but he does provide the voice of the narrator during
Yep,
the last stretch of it when
yep,
it's talking about like there's the line about the safety razor
uh
um,
huh,
and the things that they are and aren't allowed to have on death row.
hmm,
They can't allow them to commit suicide. They get the safety razor, safety first.
yep,
It's just the I feel like his voice, just as the narrator, the way that he delivers that line and other similar pieces of monologue, really heightens the irony of the fact that the the justice system wants to take such care to dispose of these people exactly the way that it wants on it, on its own clock, on its own schedule. Um, but I mean, what's there? You're just going to kill them. You're just holding them to later kill them. Why all the fuss? About things that they are and aren't allowed to do.
yep, yep. That's true. And
So the fact that the reporter is introduced earlier and then we can recognize his voice as being the narrator in those scenes is important, I think.
mhm, mhm, yep. And the film's not only in black and white. I think which is by 1967 is rather unusual. It's also I think unconventional in a way that it's shot on location. So it's the house where the event happened really happened. So this was the house of the Clutter homes,
Yeah, I read
and
that as well. That's kind of disturbing, man.
it is. I would say that like especially to the cast member who do that like
Yeah.
staying right there exactly where the murder happened. Damn.
Yeah, and the crew as well. Like you got to figure there are probably some people who
Yep.
begged off of this job. Like,
Yep.
they were with a company that was going to provide the lighting or the electricity or I don't know, the catering or whatever for this movie. And there were probably some people who were like, "No, I'm not going to do that one. I'll
Yep.
I'll
Yep.
sign up with the next picture that you make, but not this one. I'm not going in that house. I'm not
Yep.
going in that prison. Um, just
Yeah.
just let me take a little vacation."
Yep. Yep. It's man. And yeah, we get into the mind of Perry a lot. So we see him, like hallucinating, especially in regard to his mom
Wouldn't
and
you say it's more in regard to his father? Because he
father.
sees multiple characters as like being he projects his father's image and likeness onto multiple characters. I think he only does that
That's
once
right.
with his mother, with the
Yeah.
little
Yep.
senorita
Yep.
that Dick brings back to the hotel room or whatever kind of room it is in
Yep.
Mexico.
Yep. Yep.
But
That's true.
we do hear his mother saying Perry, Perry, and that kind of
Mm-hmm.
sing-song voice that sometimes parents they'll address especially their younger children that way.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
We hear him like remembering that noise, that his name being said that way at multiple points, and
Yep.
we get the flashback to you know the kids, I guess, seeing their mother um, engaging in an affair with a younger man,
Yep. Yep.
and then the dad busts in and like threatens to kill her.
I I I think it's not they didn't tell it right away, but I think it's implied that the dad killed killed the mom, right?
It could be, yeah. I mean, when we first meet the dad, it's when he's being questioned by the cops, and he's living in like a little shack or something.
Yep. Yep. And
And yeah,
and because I remember the dad say something about like the mom died because she choked on he choked on her own alcohol or something.
her own vomit
Her own vomit.
is what he says, but you can tell that that line is overdubbed because the
Yep.
movements, like his lip flaps, don't match. He doesn't say vomit. He says something else.
Right. Huh. Huh. Yeah, I wonder what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Um, I have no idea. But
Yeah.
it's yeah, the way that he gives his story to the cops, you can tell from the way that he like hesitates that he may be altering the details of what actually happened. So he could have killed her. Yeah.
Yeah. Proves.
Yeah, so Perry may or may not have seen his father murder his mother.
Mm.
Um, though I'm kind of confused about the timeline because he says that the mom leaves and takes the other three children, but she leaves Perry with the dad. And if that's the case, why are all four of the children together in that flashback?
Yeah, not really sure. I think maybe the timeline is right after that. Perry come to live with his dad.
But if Perry
Maybe.
comes to live with his dad, why is he there at his mom's place?
Yeah, because I
Because this is where
maybe
his mom is having the affair, so this must be her room.
yeah, maybe because the arrangement before that was the mom take all the child, and then later on after that happened, Perry come to live with his dad. But anyway, yeah, the time I remember the timeline is that later on when Perry becomes like and I think like well into his adult because he haven't met his dad for 5 6 years, and as we hear in his story, that's the dad kicks him out, and he did he haven't seen him since, so it just I say it's just about like 5 6 years ago before Perry was convicted by something. Yeah,
Yeah,
what did he was convicted for?
for
Yeah, we didn't
murder.
know. Right? Yeah, well, I mean before that, because Perry and Nick know each other in jail.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't think we ever get the
Yeah,
details on that, do we?
yeah,
Or
not
is
really.
it that he
Yeah,
was it like manslaughter? Because people think that he killed. I don't know.
yeah, we didn't know about that.
I,
Yep.
it's hard to say how much of like Perry's, his flashbacks, his hallucinations, even the story that he tells to Reverend Jim near
Uh
the
huh.
end when he's talking about his dad having built the hunting lodge in Alaska, but nobody comes.
Yep.
We don't know exactly what's true. Because
Right.
Perry's introduced to us as kind of like a dreamer.
Unreliable.
He pictures himself as like performing on the Las Vegas Strip,
Yep.
with his guitar, and
Mm-hmm.
then there's a cut to a bunch of empty chairs and tables,
Yep.
indicating that he's performing for nobody, and then the film moves back into the present day, and he's like staring at himself in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
So Perry's not an entirely reliable character.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So
I agree with you.
I don't know how many of the details about his story about the hunting lodge in Alaska are actually accurate.
Yep. Yep. Well, I agree. And
But the way that scene is framed with like half of his face in shadow and the
mm,
other half of it like refracting
the rain
the
outside.
raindrops on the window,
Yep.
and the way that he delivers that story, and that he loves his dad, he hates his dad, and he loves him at the same time.
Mm.
And that's really, I was getting really
Effective.
choked up during that scene. Like the way how shadowy it is, and just the light being provided. The only source of light is also in itself like a source of sadness. Rain being associated with, like the tears on the side of his face.
Yep.
It's man, I think that's a killer scene.
I for
No
me the
pun
kill
intended.
Yeah, well, for me, the killer scene was the one before that, also with Perry when he was in the car and when he know that like Dick had been uh double stab him, telling the others police officer that Perry would uh murder all the four and like have a history with killing a guy in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And yeah, he so he looked back into this guy. I think that was a really great shot. And so from our point of view, he looked straight into the camera, and he say something about I thought that Mr. Clutter was a nice guy, and I still think so until the moment that I cut his throat.
Yeah.
Remember that? I it just sent the chill out my spine, man.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah. I
great
mean,
deliver.
he's not, uh, he's not well.
No, he's not. He's
He's,
not.
he seems to
Uh,
me to be like insane,
right.
kind of unhinged.
Yeah, but it also I think he's also being influenced by the aspirin as well.
By the what?
Aspirin, because
Oh,
he had
aspirin?
yeah he had to get the spill in order to numb the pain of his leg, and I think he's been addicted to that.
Right. I hadn't considered that how that would like mess with his
Yeah,
mindset.
yeah, because at the event he has been some trouble with his leg,
Right.
and I think at one point he also said that like yeah, what we doing here is observe. There is no safe. We yeah, we are lousy, and like I'm burning with the leg.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's one of the things that's make him like go into the trance, like he hallucinating, and that like eventually tip him off of killing on these four members.
Huh. Yeah. I mean, I don't. It's clear that he's not taking the aspirin responsibly because when he first gets it from the woman at the counter in the
Yep,
bus station, he like pops the top and downs like half of them in one gulp, and she
yep,
comes
yep,
back
yep,
with the root beer with a smile on her face, like everything's normal.
yep, 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 yep.
Uh, it's
Well,
kind of weird.
I yeah, I actually kind of funny to see that like at the first glance we see a Perry, we we think that he's a bad guy, like the way that he avoid to talk to others,
Well, the
and
first time we see him is on the bus when we see his
yeah,
shoe,
that's right.
and
When
the little girl is like, I don't know, sorry for interrupting you or something along those lines.
yeah, because he been playing the music, I think, in the car, and this stuff people.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, that's what I think. That's what I
Okay.
thought. And later on, when he tried to get into the phone, and other people just keep like going to the phone before him, and he's kind of withdrawing. So we kind of see that he's like a really unapproachable person until we know him later. I think it's
Yeah,
kind of
he's unapproachable.
yeah,
I mean, he's definitely unapproachable, but that doesn't have anything to do with him, backing off when people are. That's him being like avoiding confrontation.
right.
You know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
there's a really a lot to say about his
Yeah, that
character. Like you can't.
I
There's so many little details. Like for example, when he talks to Dick about nuns, um, like
right.
always watching you and trying to trip
Ah,
you up and
yep,
everything. That indicates that he has some sort of experience at a Catholic school,
yep,
or I don't know, maybe when he was, maybe nuns were involved in some sort of program for when he was being rehabilitated, or when he was in prison, or
yeah. That, yeah,
maybe when he was orphaned after his dad locked him out, which I'm not sure happened when he was an adult. may have happened when he was much younger.
Yeah, he has a rough childhood for sure.
Yeah.
But not only Perry, we see some of Nick as well. Like the way that people talk about him, he genuinely like have enjoy his time with his kids, for example. And
Yeah,
I
the when
yeah,
you listen to his what his dad says about him,
yeah,
right?
that, yeah. And we just see that like this guy, despite like doing the horrible act and senseless as well and pointless, they like sometimes they still have a good side of them. And yeah, and really I think the very point of this is that the murder is just like entirely pointless to for everyone involved.
Yeah,
It
it's a
doesn't,
waste.
yeah, it doesn't need to happen. Like it's just for $41. I think they can get away with that. But yeah, the thing is they don't really they don't even hide their faces.
Yeah. Well, I
Pe-
mean, Dick
Perry
went
talked about that.
in because Perry says that they need to get black stockings, and
Yeah,
Dick says, "Oh, what are we gonna do? Walk in there and say, yeah, we need to get some black stockings so we can hide our faces." Dick,
yeah,
from the outset, is not intending on leaving any survivors.
yeah. But he's not the one who want to do all the killing, so that's why
Right.
he get Perry's. Damn.
Yeah. Dick is like the plan guy. He's the talker.
Yeah, he the talker for sure.
And Dick even Perry even remarks like, "You are really good," when they're pulling the scams with the
Yeah.
checks that are going to bounce to get like the wedding rings and the suit and whatever.
Yep. Yep. Oh, that's one detail that I'm not too clear about. Uh, Remember like the police, they at some point they catch a man with a gun inside the house. Do you
Yeah.
remember like they do on the chase?
Yeah, he was an escaped mental patient. That's what they say.
Oh, right. And he totally like uninvolved in everything, right?
Yeah. I mean, that was just a red herring or like a temporary misdirection because
Yep.
there was a conversation between Perry and Dick about whether they should return to Kansas because Perry thought that they had left something behind.
Yep. Yep.
And so then we see somebody in the house with a shotgun, and you think maybe they've actually gone back because Perry was looking for something, but
Yep.
that was kind of a half-hearted misdirect.
Yeah.
Didn't add
Or
much to the film. But
no,
maybe
it's
it
not.
happened in real life. Like maybe somebody broke into the house and the cops thought that they were going to have a breakthrough, because
Yeah.
it's based on true events. So maybe they just
Yeah.
wanted to reflect that in the film.
Yep. That's right. Uh, yeah. And their reasoning before, yeah, before they receiving a death penalty, I think it's interesting as well. I remember Dick say something about like you said a revenge system, and he said like you know by hanging myself, I might live in a world better than this one. So
Yeah, that's what he
I'm good
says
with
when
that.
he's asked to give his last words, right?
Yeah, and actually, yeah, we see like these people committing the crime, in like two different forms. By that I mean like Perry is like he mentally unstable because of all the trauma that he received in his childhood.
Hmm.
So we see that is why he doing all the killings, and Nick is more about like his contempt with uh with the social class, with the richest people, because I think he remarked that a few times in the movies.
Yeah, well, there's the I remember a couple instances of that as well, but the most striking one is probably when he's being interrogated by the cops,
Yep, yep,
and one of them says, "Why do you people always get tattooed?"
yep,
And you people being like a form of classism in and of itself, like
yep,
grouping people together based on them being you people.
yep, yep.
Um, and he says, "Oh well, everybody's got a tattoo. You've got your clubs. Um, I've got a tattoo. Your
Yeah.
tattoo just takes a different form than mine. And he says something similar to Perry when they're in the car as well. I can't remember what exactly
Yep.
it was, but
Yep. I think the
everybody like steals. Everybody cheats and steals. It's the national pastime.
yeah, and more about like you have you seen like all the rich people like getting convicted or something along that,
Right.
right?
Yeah, there's two different laws, one for the
Yeah,
rich, one for the poor.
yeah, and rich people get away with basically everything. Yeah,
Right.
something along that line. So he have been like a really deep discontent with uh about the social class, about his current like standing.
Hmm.
And I think that's one of the reason why, yeah, because they show a very little remorse after killing. I think Perry did a bit more about like all the karma, like yeah, but
Well, I don't think anyone was afraid of what it might do to their karma,
yeah,
you know.
right,
Well, Perry does show signs of remorse, but he does it in a way that's kind of childlike. For example, when he's asked to give his, Dick says he makes a grand proclamation when he's asked to give his final words. He says, "Well, I got to thank all you gentlemen because you're sending me to a better world than this one."
yep.
And that kind of reflects the fact that he's, like you said, he harbors a lot of discontent for the way that the world is, the fact that the deck is stacked against you as a poor person.
Mhm.
But Perry, when he's asked for his final words, says, "I'd like to apologize, but I'm not sure to whom."
Yeah,
Like the way that his instinct is that he should apologize to someone is very, very childlike, I feel, because he's
right.
been reduced to that state. When he's spent all that time on death row, the only thing that he's got his painting and everything, and he has his visits with Reverend Jim and all that, but he's probably mostly reflecting on the violence that his father exposed him to,
Yeah,
and the death of his mother, and just his generally shattered childhood. He tells Reverend Jim during like earlier when I was talking about that shot where it looks like the raindrops are streaming down the side of his face through the window. He says that when he was a boy, his dad got his rifle and he pulled the trigger on him, but it wasn't loaded. Like his
yeah.
dad intended to kill him. And I don't know whether that's true or not, but it's heartbreaking to think about.
Yep,
So he's got to be like locked in that sort of mentality, like he's done something terribly wrong.
yep, yep,
Um, why would his father, who's supposed to love him, want to kill him?
yep,
A child will automatically blame themselves in that situation, and it seems like he's sort of trapped in that sort of like that manner of thinking too.
yep.
Um,
Oh,
so his death scene is absolutely pitiful. Like
yep.
you
It's
can't not feel sorry for him, even though he's a cold-blooded killer.
yep,
You can't
yep,
help but feel sorry for him. Like,
yep.
and it's, oh man, especially his last spoken line of dialogue, "Is God in this place too?" That just, man, that'll destroy you.
Yep.
Like,
Yep. This is a great film.
yeah, man, like, I think it is a great film, but especially the last part of it,
Mhm.
I think elevates it to a whole different, like, stratosphere.
Yep. Yep. That's the one scene that I want to bring up is the one that they pick up the boy and the old man and they do all these can gatherings.
It's kind of reminiscent of the scene in Bonnie and Clyde where they pick up Eugene and
That's
Velma.
right. That's right. I was about to say that. I think
Yeah.
it's belong more to Bonnie and Clyde than in this film, but it's still adds something in this film. The way that they try to make like some honest money
Yeah.
and
But
and
I think it
actually
illustrates the fact that if you try to make honest money that way, all you're making is like $12 and you got to split it two ways so you get six. So
well
between Dick and Perry, that's three each.
I mean it's still so they all make like $12, right? 12
No,
bucks in
12 is the
total.
total. isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, the total. I mean the total, but compared to like $41 that they steal from the Clutter families, and they have to kill four people for that.
Right, $10 a life.
Yeah, $10 alive. So yeah, ah, so
Yeah, I
cheap
mean, I
pay.
think the main point of those characters is probably to show that Perry empathizes with the boy,
Yep, yep, yep.
you know, because
Mhm,
he himself is kind of trapped in a state of boyhood, in a
mhm.
sense.
Yep.
You know, he didn't have a strong relationship with his father. He didn't have like a model of adult masculinity to
Mhm,
follow.
mhm.
So how is he going to what kind of adult is he going to become? Nothing was he didn't observe anything or see anything as a child that would prepare him for being an adult himself, at least not
Yep,
a proper one.
yep, yep.
And
True.
so he sees the kid, and he probably sees himself, and he wants to help him out. And Dick is the opposite.
Mhm.
Dick is like, look at that disgusting old man.
Yep, yep,
So
yep,
Dick sees not the child but the adult,
yep.
and
Mhm.
hates him in the same way that he can't stand to be a part of adult society.
Right.
So I think the two of them are probably seeing something completely different in those two in that boy and his grandpa. They
Yep.
based on their own upbringings, their own experiences, they see something totally different, and so they have opposite reactions.
Mhm, mhm. Oh man, good film. And the one that I really wanted other people to watch more of that.
Well, I'm sure. Yeah, it as you said before, it's the least popular of these three films, but that only seems natural to me. And I'm sure that this film, I mean, the fact that we're even discussing it right now, that it was brought up as a potential topic of conversation,
Mhm,
on on your part, um, it's not as though the film is completely obscure because it's
mhm.
so powerful, that it can't be ignored.
Yep, yep. And great performances as well. Um, I
Yeah.
the directors, he wanted to get some unknown names for the two part, because I think he been offered some of the star for this film, but he declined.
Hmm.
And I think it's paid off, because
Yeah, it might be distracting for
yeah,
the general public to see a movie star in one of these roles.
yeah, because yeah, at one point they said here that they consider Paul Newman and Steve McQueen for the role.
Hmm.
So yep, they would be too
Well, I
famous for
don't,
that.
not having seen a lot of films from this time period, I don't think that would distract me particularly, but
Oh,
thinking about it, people who are
the
seeing movies in 1967 to see unknown actors. I mean, you you watch a lot of films with a particular movie star in them, and you start to form an attachment to that person or get an idea of what kind of actor they are. You pass judgment on a character that they're playing based on their previous roles. And in a film that seeks to build two murderers entirely from scratch, and then make you feel as though their deaths are a form of murder in and of themselves, you you want that slate to be as blank as possible, most
yeah.
likely.
Mhm.
So I think it was probably a good decision. I mean, it paid off. At least we can say that retrospectively or
Mhm.
retroactively. We can say that it paid off, but I mean, who
Yeah.
knows how many films have taken that approach of casting no name actors, and as a result, they're no name films.
Yep. 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 I can see that. So, right. The last thing I want to mention is the score, because you were listening to some of the music before we do the postcard.
Oh yeah,
How do you think of the score? They
it's interesting. This is another area in which my my lack of knowledge about films from this time period kind of hampers me
Yep.
or like limits me in forming an opinion. But
Yep.
I was reminded while watching this film of There Will Be Blood,
Right. Right.
just because like I have to imagine that when this film came out, this was a very atypical score. In the same way that the Johnny Greenwood music for There Will Be Blood is like very distinctive.
Mhm.
The strings, like it's just the stabbing sounds
Yep.
of the strings, really violent, dissonant,
Mhm.
almost horrific
Mhm.
sound to it. And this film, like it's so smooth, like the bass, it's got that really wobbly jazz bass. The
Mhm.
strings like kind of slide down um, whenever it wants to generate tension. The strings will slide slowly from a high pitch to a low one. The percussion's like really syncopated, shuffling. Um, it's just very. It's interesting that the film is the music is so considered and so like polished
Mhm. Mhm.
for a film that is so raw.
Right.
You know,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
I like the contrast there, and there are also moments where the score like shifts completely. For example, the scenes where they're collecting the bottles on the side of the road with the kid and his grandpa.
Mhm. Mhm.
Those
Mhm.
have a little bit more of a country western feel
Yep.
to them, and
Yep.
um, I feel like it fits the film. You know,
I
in general, it complements it at all in almost every way that it can.
mhm. For me, I feel like the music is great on its own. So we have like all the catchy music that like complement quite well with the scenes, but at the same time, I do feel that it a bit too stand out at times. So sometimes we really hear the music swearing, roaring, and for me, it took me a bit away from the experience with the films.
Mm. Well, it certainly is ear grabbing. You know,
Yep, yep,
a
yep,
lot of
true.
odd time signatures and instruments like performing in ways that you wouldn't expect them to necessarily.
Mhm.
So a choice that was meant to grab the ear and to stand out.
Yep. Alrighty. So yeah, this is clearly your favorite out of the three, right?
Oh, for sure, man. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
for this might be one of my favorite films ever.
Oh,
Not that I've
cool.
seen, a particularly large number of them, but this film had me like so wrapped up in, especially in the third act,
I'm glad,
in
man.
its characters and in its story, that I was like, by the time I was sweating and shaking by the end of it, like
Yeah. I heard that Truman Capote he spent like 5 6 years to finish the this novel, and he said like he like a pack of him had like had died writing that, so he basically like like give it his all to write the story,
yeah.
and consider like the stark difference between like this story in conclude and his novel like Breakfast at Tiffany,
Yeah, they're I would say so. Yeah, they're
it's so
very
like day and
different.
night. Yeah,
I got to say I prefer this one,
yep, yeah, me
at
too.
least between the film adaptations.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, I think he's the kind of writer who really I haven't read his novel, so I don't know like how
Well, then you
he's.
can't say what kind of writer he is.
Yeah, but like the detail that he put in, the detail that we see in the movies, like the way that the characters say in the dialogue, I think it's really sharp
But
and
yeah,
really
the
like
dialogue in particular does seem to
attention
have
to
been
details.
lifted from the book, like the particular slang,
Mhm.
especially that Dick uses.
Yeah, right. So yep,
Yeah.
I've enjoyed three film all the same. I have the special rather have the special place in my heart, so I enjoyed that a bit more. But the other two are pretty great as well. So it's a really good watch for me this week.
Well, very good.
Yep,
New Hollywood.
New Hollywood. Just the beginning of New Hollywood, by the
Right.
way.
I don't really. I mean, I see similarities between the films, and we've discussed some of them, but
Yeah, a lot
that
of them are great.
even the term New Hollywood just by itself seems to be very broad. So
Yep,
I'm sure
yep,
there are a lot of films that
yep.
could go together as recommended viewing. In fact, you
I
mentioned one of them,
Yeah,
The
I
Heat of
would
the Night.
say In the Heat of the Night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that it's more like a movement more than like like a particular yeah, so it's like new wave, friend new wave, and that kind of stuff. So it pretty broad.
Huh. Okay. Well,
Yep.
I'm sure that there are more worthwhile films to watch. Maybe I'll get to some of them someday. But for right now,
Yep.
we're done, and we'll pick a
Cool.
new theme for the next episode, which will be in 2 weeks. I don't think we've landed on one just yet, but maybe move away from Hollywood and do something different.
Yep. Definitely that. And yeah, we will decide on these films later on. So we will have something to say in 2 weeks.
Yeah. I guess
Alrighty.
we'll see you then.
Yep. Enjoy. If you haven't watched any of them already, just do yourself a favor and watch them. You will be enjoy and maybe like get a little bit something out of the three films as well.
All right.
See ya.
See you next time.